scusate, una parola in italiano per introdurre questo incredibile incontro. Incredibile incontro perché si narreranno le gesta di una personalità leggendaria della storia delle cineteche, veramente una figura chiave per capire l'importanza internazionale del movimento delle cineteche, Nair. E a narrare le gesta di questo leggendario pioniere della necessità di conservare il patrimonio cinematografico indiano, abbiamo la persona che, a sorpresa, abbiamo la persona che è subentrato dopo Nair, Suresh Shabria, che ringrazio molto di essere qui con noi, e abbiamo Shivendra Singh Dungarpur, che abbiamo iniziato a conoscere per il bellissimo documentario Celluloid Man che aveva dedicato a Nair, che abbiamo visto nuovamente come grande documentarista ieri pomeriggio ci ha portato il suo ultimo lavoro, The Mortals, e che non è solo un grande regista, ma è anche una di quelle persone che cambiano il destino delle cose, perché in questi anni è riuscito in alcune imprese assolutamente impossibili, come aprire una scuola di restauro di cui ha già fatto 2 corsi straordinari a Mumbai, e ha iniziato a lavorare in maniera molto importante con l'archivio indiano e ha in mente di aprire un grande centro di conservazione che cambi il futuro della conservazione di quello che oggi è diventato il paese che produce più film al mondo. Quindi l'enormità di questo impegno va assolutamente sottolineato, e quindi ringrazio i 2 relatori per essere qui e per quello che ci racconteranno di Nair.
Thank you, Gianluca. I'm very honored that my teacher, who is the former director of the National Film Archive, Mr. Suresh Shabria, is with me, and I think it's made my life easier to talk on my mentor, Nair, because there's no one better than him who knew him for so many years. Before I ask him to speak first, because I think I will add my experiences of what Nair contributed, not only to the National Film Archive, but to us as filmmakers. I'd just like to say that it was right here in Bologna, many years ago, 7 years ago, when I stepped in, when the archive in India was still sort of, after the retirement of Nair and Suresh Shabria, was still struggling to find its way ahead, that I came here and realized the importance of film preservation and restoration. So I owe my entire career, I think, not only as a filmmaker who was able to make a film, Celluloid Man, when I came seeing the wonderful films which were shown here, but also my career as a film preserver and restorer. And thanks to Gianluca and Cecilia, I was able to start a long journey of trying to realize the importance of saving films and saving film culture back in India. I think I'd like you to start off, because you knew Nair right from the beginning. Why don't you start off, and I'll add all the anecdotes and the feel where I went through when I was shooting Celluloid Man. Yeah.
Thank you, Shivendra. It's a good occasion to introduce to you the legend that is Mr. Nair, who passed away in February this year. Some of you may have heard his name, you certainly saw it in the program, so this is an important person, you must have realized. But I cannot emphasize more his importance in Indian film culture. We may have for decades one of the biggest film industries in the world, if not the biggest. 1,000+ films every year they are made, and in 20 languages. Of course, there are the dominant languages of Hindi in Bombay, or Tamil in Chennai, or Telugu in Hyderabad. But it's a massive film industry. But we had done nothing to preserve this heritage. It is perhaps not possible to save all those films, to keep all those films, particularly in the pre-digital era, only as celluloid. But the man who made the difference was Mr. P.K. Nair. He had joined the Film Institute of India, where Shivendra is a graduate, and where I was professor of film for many, many years. He had joined in a minor library post, and he became a very close and dear colleague and friend of my other predecessor, Professor Satish Bahadur, who was a great teacher of film and the dissemination of film culture in India. We see films in India all the time. It is in the air, it is in our environment. It's like a magma. But to pioneer the idea that cinema is an art, that was Professor Bahadur's contribution. And Professor Bahadur was very busy developing his programs of teaching. So his assistant, Mr. P.K. Nair, is the person who was asked to try and build up the film library at the film school. And eventually the idea came when the both of them heard about FIAF and how much more that needs to be done than just collect films. We have to look after the films. They got together and started the National Film Archive of India in 1964. I first heard of both of these great pioneers in India when I was in my college years. I was 17 or 18, and I was passionate about films, and I went to lied about my age and joined film societies and saw many classics I was not supposed to look at. It was only for adults. And then one day a group of our friends, all college students, we said, we know that certain films are there only in the archive in Pune. Let us go there and see what happens. So we took a train. It took 4.5 hours to get to Pune, and then in those days we used to have from the station a horse carriage ride. We took it to Law College Road, where the Institute and the Archive lived on the same campus, and we go and say, we want to meet Mr. Nair, and we want to see some films here. He made us wait for 2, maybe 3 hours. That was his habit. Whatever he did, he would forget the note which would come to his office, and he would finish that first and so on. He made us 2 or 3 wait each time we went there. And then I saw for the first time a grand print of La Règle du Jeu. I saw Ozu, I saw Mizoguchi, the films I had been dreaming of. Indian classics were there, I knew, but I had already seen them in my childhood and teenage years in the cinemas, in the matinees. That would come later, the whole collection. That's how it began. 4 or 5 of us college students turning up there, but he has time for us in spite of everything, and then he makes arrangements for us to see the films in the night, makes projection available, tries to get a guest room, and that began the friendship which lasted for decades until his passing away. I knew that when he was retiring, it was an unhappy break with the government. He had become unpopular, let us say, with the bureaucracy, but he had achieved much. It was the right time to make copies of films which were in the laboratories all over India, particularly Bombay and Madras. Had he not made those copies at an enormous effort, enormous sacrifice of his personal life, he had no personal life at all. He worked from 9 in the morning till 1 in the night. His family life did not exist, sadly, very, very sadly. But without him amassing that collection And now what we call the National Film Archive of India, the code is what Mr. P.K. Nair brought into the vaults. He didn't have the resources, as indeed, I must admit, when I was the director of the archive, I succeeded him after 8 months. There was a temporary arrangement, and I was there for 6 years. We didn't have the sufficient government encouragement and resources to preserve the film well at the right humidity and the right temperatures and so on. But Mr. Nair had made the plans which I could execute. And we had, by the time I left the archive in the late 90s, we had good walls, we had temperature control, we had humidity control, and so on. Now, I will tell you just one or two more things about Mr. P.K. Nair. Among the students, particularly of the Film Institute and his friends like myself, he was a walking encyclopedia. And an encyclopedia with footnotes. Not only did he know certain facts, but, okay, you are interested in that film, and in that, Indian films have songs, and you're interested in that song, it is in reel 7, or maybe reel 8. And one of his habits was whenever a new print came, he would mark out on the can itself the song sequences, because songs are extremely popular and always in demand by people who visit and want to learn about Indian cinema. So he was more than an encyclopedia. His knowledge of our film collection was amazing. The biggest tribute we can pay him, which younger people like Shivendra are doing, is to continue and take the archiving in India, not just the National Film Archive, but private efforts like his, take archive to the next level of dealing with the digital age and doing a much better job in preserving the celluloid heritage of India. Even, I'm afraid I must admit, though my friends, my colleagues, and dear students who are younger than me at the archive, I'm not sure they exactly know how many films are in good condition, how much has suffered from vinegar syndrome, how much has not been copied into negatives and dupe negatives and new negatives have not been made. I'm not sure they know how much, but the volume is very, very, very great of the work to be done. So I return to Shivendra to tell us what efforts he and others are making in this area to keep up the legacy of Mr. P.K. Nair. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will continue our conversation, but I want to start from how I got involved with the efforts of taking P.K. Nair's work forward. I read an interview of Mr. Scorsese, and he said there's a place called Bologna where they restore these wonderful films. And 7 years ago, I made a trip here, and when I, like all of us are seeing some of the most wonderful prints being shown, I was deeply moved by some of the old classics being restored. And that made me really think that what's really happening in India. It made me think, when I was a student at the Film and Television Institute in Pune, P.K. Nair, who was at that time just about to retire, I think I was there when he was about to retire the same year, but he showed us those wonderful films, and at that point we took it for granted. We took everything for granted. When you're a student, you sort of feel that you're supposed to see these films, you're supposed to be shown these films. I never cared how he managed to get this vast number of films, and how he would sit in the theater, watch every single film maybe 500 times. I know every year it was shown, he would be sitting there and watching. And we used to find him really funny. He was like Phantom of the Opera. If you've seen that film, he would come in a silhouette, and at that time, the walking stick. People were a little afraid of him. They wouldn't ask him questions. We would rarely speak to him. He was a very quiet man. And And that brought me back to memory. So on my flight back, I was already conceiving a film on the Czech New Wave. I never thought I'd make Celluloid Man, you know, I was just conceiving a film on the Czech New Wave, and I was traveling to Prague and filming with Jerry Menzel and various other filmmakers. When I landed in Mumbai, I had such an immediate effect that I immediately took a car and we drove down, 4 friends of ours, and we drove down to Pune to meet him in his bungalow. He had retired by then. I mean, he was leading a very lonely life, and I met him in his bungalow, and it was so nostalgic. And I said, let's go and see the waltzer. And the unfortunate thing at that point was that he wasn't allowed to enter the archive. As mentioned, there were problems with the bureaucracy. They found him too interfering. They found him that he had suggestions for everything. Even though he had this wonderful house in Trivandrum in Kerala, he refused, even after the retirement, to leave Pune and leave the archive. He used to live in a small room, literally like a 1-bedroom kind of a house, opposite the archive, just like a watchdog. I mean, it was his baby. And we took him to the vaults, and we were quite stunned by the conditions of the way the vaults were being looked after at that point in time. There were kids who were studying in the vaults, you know, because of the electricity. You could pay, and we found students studying at the vault. We didn't know who was handling the vaults at that time. And I didn't even know that it was a crime to take P.K. Nair down to the vaults. The next day, the director called me, and he was furious that how can you allow this man, the man who's built the whole generation of filmmakers, the man who's built the archives, was suddenly not allowed. And at that point, I thought that I should make a small clip and give it to a few friends, and we could have a news about it. And I think the idea of making a film never came to me. It was just that I wanted to get into a conversation with P.K. Nair of the time I spent with him when I was a student, or what really happened. And the film doesn't really deal with all the aspects of P.K. Nair. It deals mainly with my fascination or my tribute for this immense work he did over the years. And I want to show one of the things which always intrigued us was that we always, when we were students at the FTI, we used to have, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Holi. Holi is a festival of colors where you throw, colors to each other. It's with, you get splashed with colors all over, and at that time, that's one day where we students get into the auditorium and dance to the songs of films from all over. And we used to go and visit P.K. Nair, and we say, sir, can we have this song? And he would be sitting on his desk, say, can number 6, take out can number 6. Sir, we want this song, can number 4. This song, can number 3. He knew each and every can. And believe me, my filmmaker friends didn't believe it. I used to dial them and say, okay, now you check with P.K. Nair. Ask them a film which is lying in the archive, and he'll tell you the can number. He was so precise. And I can never forget that. And the germ of the film began with that we always were intrigued, how did he know the cans? And another very important thing for me was, we used to hear the story when we were at the FTI, that a film would come somewhere in India, and quietly he will make a copy. And I'm going to show you a clip. I asked him in this film. And this is very relevant for that time, for most of the archives. Can we have clip number 1? And I want to show you what I asked him in the film, which can give you a sense of.
Yes. This is the early history of the archives.
Yeah.
Piracy was the only way
Clip number 1.
certain archives could be built. Now it is not to be done.
Yeah. So let's see clip number 1, I think.
Did you actually steal films and go back to the archive lab and make copies of those films?
I didn't get it.
Did you steal films I believe when a film used to come for archive screening, or when it used to come for a film festival, you used to make a copy of that film.
That's not a good word to use, for an archivist. No. It's true that we get film from foreign archives and it's a kind of an understanding, it's a kind of a personal understanding that we are really want to have a film, because I remember Hour of Furnaces, the Argentine film, it came to the festival and I borrowed it for a screening and for the showing to the students. Normally they are not allowed to spend films outside without, but somehow I got it because it was required to be shown, because that is a great film. So I got it here, and what it did was I made a dupe, it's true, and sent it back after a day or two. So on record it is only for screening, but we don't put it on record that we have done it. But I think a true archivist should have the immunity to overcome all these legal problems.
One story we've always heard was that whenever any film came to the Film Institute for some screening from any part of the world, he would quietly take that print and give it to the lab at night and say, make a copy of this, And then overnight a copy would be made and that print would be gone, and so that at least he'll have one copy in the archive. I don't know how true this is, but these are the stories we've heard about him.
There was this fantastic film called Battle of Algiers, which landed up in '74 for the film festival there. And then he brought it to the FTI. And we were all stunned, and we said, Nair sir, we must have this film. And he said, okay, let me do a plan, I think what he did was, he spoke to the distributors of the film who had come with the film, and he said, this print, can you leave it behind, And they said, but I believe you have a good print of Pater Panchali. Yes. So I am quite sure that the box which was written Battle of Algiers went back to France with a set of prints called Pater Panchali. And we were left behind with Battle of Algiers.
Yeah. Now, if you really look at the context of what Mr. Chabria was saying, P.K. Nair started his career at the Film and Television Institute. So I just want to give you a perspective of the Film and Television Institute was started by the government to train filmmakers. It was at the old Prabhat studio, the great Prabhat studio, which made the fantastic film called Sant Tukaram. If you've not heard of that film, one of the great films from India, which won an award in 1936 at Venice Film Festival. So the government took over that it was under auction and started the FTI there. And because P.K. Nair was at the FTI, he began as a librarian, and his great interactions with the great filmmaker Ritwik Khatak and several other people, he realized the importance that an archive needs to have films which needs to be shown to students. And I think one of the most wonderful efforts of his was that he not only built the archive, but he built a whole generation of filmmakers. He was like Henry Langwell in many ways, because the whole new wave directors, really the new wave directors, all of them, I mean, if you can hear Manipal, Kumar Shrani, to Girish Kasavadi, Saeed Mirza, some of the great Indian filmmakers, have all been able to benefit from the fact that P.K. Nair made sure that by hook or crook, he was able to get a copy of a film and show it to all of us. And that's why I said that his influence to all of us was so tremendous that because of his constantly showing us those wonderful films and showing it to us, that we were able to make films and go out and sort of take our
yeah. And it's not just that under his stroke, as it said about Langlois, the new wave came forward. It's not really the filmmakers that started their careers by looking at the films of the National Film Archive. A whole generation of, 2 generations of cinephiles in India. The film societies in India needed the archive for giving the 16mm prints of Bicycle Thieves, Potemkin, Rashomon, all these classics were introduced because they were in the archive collection in 16mm prints. They circulated in different centers in India. And so Mr. Nair is remembered not only by the filmmakers,
Right. Yeah.
as a person who they owe a very great debt of gratitude to, but also average lovers of cinema. I can travel in any part of India, and because I had the great honor of succeeding both Professor Satish Bahadur and Mr. P.K. Nair, they look up to me as their successor, and I try to live up to that. But his legend is not only among filmmakers, that's what I want to say. His legend is in the wider public. If there is a film consciousness and a film culture in India, it is thanks to these two men and the subsequent work some of us were able to do in the mold they had given us.
I will be showing you a clip from a village where he took these films, and it's tremendous what he did. But before the clip, I want to tell you another interesting story. I mean, his pastime would be that he would pick up a phone directory, and he would just pick it up and just go through it, and whichever name it would stop, he would call them and say, "Oh, there's a film today. Would you like to come and see it?" Many times he had people saying, "Are you crazy?" and they'll put the phone down. But many times people would say, "Oh, really? What film? Where?" And they would come in, and then he would give them notes, and he created this whole generation, as like Sir said, of cinephiles, all through. But his tremendous effort with Satish Bahadur was when he took those very films of what we are seeing today to villages, right down to a village in Karnataka, a village called Hegru. And I want to show you that clip, and you see the tremendous effect it has. That film has a universal language, and it can reach out to a wider audience. You don't need just intellectuals to watch those films. And also, these films led to the rise of many filmmakers who came from that area, because they were from the village background. Girish Kasavadi is one of them. One of the great filmmakers from Karnataka who's made Kata Shabda, which was well recognized, was a young boy studying in that village, and he saw these films for the first time as a village boy, and it changed his life forever. Can we have the Hegru clip?
When you talk about a great man like Nair, you will have to bring in so many other names, because they all come at a period of history, and then one helps the other, one builds the other, one complements the other. Satish Bahadur, for instance. He would come with films, which we could get from P.K. Nair to our village in Hegodu, when K.V. Subarna was running this Ninasam. Now his son does it, actually. It is continuing. And there would be a film appreciation course, and Satish Bahadur would talk and talk and talk on the films that he showed. And the villagers would go out talking about Bergman.
The person behind it was K.V. Subarna, who was a theatre activist. He attended our, if I remember correct, the first film appreciation course in 1975. Now, after the course, he was very much inspired. He wanted to have a film appreciation program in his theatre in Hegadu. He was using theatre as a kind of a social awareness, and mainly for educating and imparting value system to the local people who had no exposure to cinema, because there was no cinema theatre there. Now, we supplied films, all of them were 16 among those days. We went by train, and then we had to travel in the bus long distance to that theatre. He had a regular audience who patronized the theatre programs, the Yakshagana dance programs which he used to organize. And the first time we showed films like Bicycle Thieves, Rashomon, Father Panchali, and had detailed discussions. And Father Sahib used to talk in English, and Subarna used to translate after every sentence or every 2 sentences. So we could successfully break the language barrier, which was another thing which we were trying to, we thought that the idea of film education and film awareness should reach the village level, even people who do not familiar with English language.
ಒಂದು ವಾರ ಹಬ್ಬ ಕಣಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸ್ಟೇಜಲ್ಲಿ. ಅವಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಸ್ಟೇಜೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೆ ನಾವು ಹೆಗ್ಗೋ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಸಿನಿಮಾ. ದೂರದಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ.
ಹಾಗೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನನಗೆ ಭಾಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿರುವಂಥದ್ದು ರಾಶ್ರಮ ಮತ್ತು ಬಹಸ್ಕಲ್ ತೀವ್ಸ್, ಪತೇರ್ ಪಾಂಚಾಲಿ, ಇವುಗಳು ಕೂಡ ತುಂಬ ಆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ನಾವು.
ಪತೇರ್ ಪಾಂಚಾಲಿ, ಚಾರ್ಲಿ ಚಾಪ್ಲಿನ್, ರಶೋಮನ್, ಅಪೂರ್ವ ಸಂಸಾರ್ ಇಂಥ ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಜನ ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ರು.
ಹತ್ತು ದಿವಸ ಶಿಬಿರ ಮುಗಿಯೋವರೆಗೂ ಫಿಲ್ಮಿಂದ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ತಲೆ ಒಳಗೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. ರೋಡ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಹೋಗೋರು ಸಮೇತ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾಟಕ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಅದ್ರನ್ನೇ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಕೊತ ಹೋಗೋರು. ಮತ್ತು ಮಾರನೇ ದಿವಸ ಸಂಜೆ ಶೋ ಬರ್ಬೇಕಾರೋ ನಿನ್ನೆ ನೋಡಿದ್ದ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆನೇ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಕೊತ ಬರೋರು. ಆ ಥರ ಒಂದು 10 ದಿವಸ ಆ ಥರ ವಾತಾವರಣ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಯಾಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತಿತ್ತು.
ಆ ಕಾಲದಾಗೆ ಆ ಸಿನಿಮಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಮೊದಲು ಪತೇರ್ ಪಾಂಚಾಲಿ ಭಾಳ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಆ ಬಡ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರ ಕತೆ, ಅವು ಪಟ್ಟ ಕಷ್ಟ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರಂತೂ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಈಗಲೂ ನೆನಪಿರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಅವ ಬರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅವ ಊರು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಮನೇಲಿ ಸಂಸಾರಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ಸೀರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಸಣ್ಣ ಸಣ್ಣ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ತಂದ ಅವಾಗ ಆ ಮಗಳು ಸತ್ತೋದ ಅವಾಗ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಈಗಲೂ ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಆ ಕಾಲದಾಗ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ, ನಾವೇ ಒಂಥರ ಪುಣ್ಯಾತ್ಮರು. ಅಂತ ಕಾಲದಾಗ ಆ ಥರ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ, ಫಾರಿನ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಇಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಇರಬೇಕು.
ನಾ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾ, ಅದು ರಾಶಮಾನೋ ಇದು ಅಚ್ಚಳಿದೆ ನೆನಪಲ್ಗೊಳ್ಳೋದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಈ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಅದರ ನಂತರ ನೀರಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಳುಗಿ ಹೋಗುವ ಒಬ್ಬ ಮನುಷ್ಯನೆಲ್ಲ ನೇಣು ಹಾಕುವ ಒಂದು ಕತೆ, ಅವ್ರು ಕ್ರೇಕ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸಿನಿಮಾ.
ನನಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟವಾದ್ದು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಟ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಆ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಅಂತಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನೆಲ್ಲೋ ಆಕಾಶಕ್ಕೆ ತಗೊಂಡೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತದೆ, ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಏನು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅಯ್ಯೋ ನಾನು ಕೂಲ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಲ್ಲ, ಏನು ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ತಗೊಂಡೋಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಓದಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ರಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಅಂತ. ಸ್ಟೋರಿ ಶುರು ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅವನು ಕನಸು ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾನೆ. ಅವ್ನು ಕನಸು ಅಂತ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೆಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಫಾಲೋ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಓಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ ಅವ್ನ ಹಿಂದಕ್ಕೆ, ಏನಾದ್ರು ಬಚಾವಾಗಿ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಮಾರೆ ಅಂತೇಳಿ. ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ತೋರಿಸ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಸುಬ್ಬಣ್ಣವರು ಮಾಡಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಕುತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕಾಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಡೋದು. ಇದು ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಆದ್ರಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ಬರ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆವಾಗ ಅವರು ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಮಾತು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದ್ದಾವಾಗ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ಅವ್ರ ಕಾಮೆಂಟ್ ಶುರುವಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಮೂಮೆಂಟ್ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಡೌನ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ಅವರಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ಅವರು ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ವಿವರಣೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು.
Wonderful. Yes, would you like to say that?
Hey Guru, when I joined the Film Institute as Professor Bahadur's successor, he was still continuing his travels with the package of films. There would be 8 or 10 tin boxes, large big boxes, which the projectionists would take to the venue, leave 2 days in advance, get there, and then he would reach there, sometimes with Mr. Nair, sometimes with some other teacher. I accompanied both of them to Heguru, this very spot, in 88 or 89. And I must tell you, I'm a very urban person. I was born and brought up in Mumbai, Bombay, and village life is very, very tough for me. And I experienced it. We were sleeping on thin mattresses on the ground. We were eating in a community kitchen where The food was basic. It was so basic that sometimes one went to sleep hungry. But those 6 or 7 days, 7 days I think it was, that we spent, the enthusiasm and energy of the organizers, Mr. Subanna, of course, and his son Akshara, and of the ordinary villagers, even though we didn't know their language and we always had a translator to do it for us. I remember teaching a lot of things there, talking about many subjects, and the questions were always very prompt, and they wanted to continue, and then they would come to our dormitory and talk to us, continue talking to us in the night. Of course, Heguru was unique. It developed a special place in the hearts of Professor Bahadur and Mr. P.K. Nair. But we also took the program, we call the Film Appreciation Program. We have it for more than a month in Pune during the summer vacation. But the rest of the year, 2 or 3 times in a year, we take a smaller edition of that, 7, 8, in those days we used to do, 7, 8 day or 5 or 6 day edition to different parts of India. So I traveled with Professor Bahadur and Mr. Nair to many cities, Bangalore, Trivandrum, Calcutta, smaller cities like Coimbatore, and even in Maharashtra, where Bombay is, in Kolhapur and Sholapur and so on. And really the dissemination of film culture, to coming back to Mr. Nair, in a way took over from archiving for him. Somehow, after he had built the essential collection, the heart of the collection of the National Film Archive of India, his attention seemed to, this is the disagreement, I mean, between 2 generations of archivists. We must be clear about this. My disagreement with Mr. Nair began there, that you are emphasizing too much on dissemination and spreading the gospel of cinema, and perhaps more resources are required for strengthening the preservation and conservation aspect of the archive, which is imbalance which I tried to make up when I succeeded him, not always to his pleasure. He accepted in principle that to preserve and to access are both equally important. But somehow he seemed to be more himself in his later years, in his very later years. He seemed to feel more himself when he was showing films rather than preserving them. But this is something, even Ernest Lindgren and Langlois, those who know the archive movement, had such differences, and Iris Berry had such differences with others. It was a historical moment. I want to just end on that. It was a historical moment when only a missionary zeal, like what Mr. P.K. Nair had, could launch the archive. And our job now is, of course, to build on that foundation and build further on that collection.
I have a small clip to show you when I took P.K. Nair to the archive. Just to give you a bit of statistics about Indian heritage, that by the time the National Film Archive was established in 1964, we had already lost 70 to 80% of our heritage. We have made 1,700 silent films. Right now at the National Film Archive, we have only 5 or 6 complete silent films, and 15 fragments.
We made about 1,320 silent films.
So we've lost nearly, say, 95% of our heritage. More than that, 99% of our silent film heritage. And we've also lost our first sound film, Alamara. If you've seen Celluloid Man, you can see P.K. Nair talking about and actually visiting the studio back with me to try and tell us the story of how most of our films, the early silent films, were lost because they were nitrate based and they were taken for silver extraction. But one of the most credible contributions of his was when he was able to save some of the Falke films. specifically Kalyamardan with help of Professor K.P.R. Nair. He was, Falke's Kalyamardan came as fragments actually. And luckily he found a diary of Falke, who's a founder of the Indian film history. And with the help of the diary, he was able to join back the film. And what we have today, the Kalyamardan 1919, is thanks to the efforts of K.P.R. Nair, who was able to duplicate it and join it, and B.K. Nair. So that was a big contribution. But I have a lovely clip where he's passionately walking in the archive in the later stages. When he met with an accident, he couldn't walk very well, he had to walk with a walking stick. But his zeal and his passion towards the archive are almost like his own baby. He's talking about. I think, I could never, it's difficult to talk to him about archive because he used to feel that that's his life. And finally, when he passed away very close. We were doing the second film preservation workshop where we had even David Posey and the whole team from here and across the world. And he had decided mentally, finally, that after the workshop, he would go back to his beautiful home in Kerala, which again you can see in Celluloid Man. So he had already passionately decided to leave, but unfortunately he passed away within the workshop. He was just waiting for the workshop to get over and then he would leave. But I'll show you a clip, a small clip, and then another clip after that of some of the very known filmmakers in India who have sort of been, for them, like me, he was a true mentor. Because like I keep saying, that he's just not an archivist, he also built all of us as filmmakers. And that's it. So let's see the clip where he's walking in the archive.
This is a vault which I planned and got ready. It was by early 90, just a year before I officially retired from the archive. At that time, if I remember correct, we had about 12,000 titles, out of which about 8,000 should be Indian and the rest foreign. And most of these were positive prints, some master positives, some dupe negatives. And so the temperature was created mainly for positive print, that is about 12 to 13 degrees centigrade, because the negatives and dupes require much more cooling. I understand that they have built new walls there for that. And I'm sure this wall contains some of the great films I managed to acquire for the NFI, starting from Dada Saheb Phalke's Raja Harishchandra, Prabhas Santukaram, Dunia Na Mane, the Chutkani of Bombay Talkies, Devadas, Baruas, Deshankar's Kalpana.
Can we, because we're running short of time, can we play the last clip also? The last clip with the filmmakers.
At night screening in main theatre, we used to all eat quickly and stand outside, and we used to wait for P.K. Nair to come. And then there was a hush, oh, Nair Saheb is coming, Nair Saheb is coming. It was almost like the cinema god has arrived.
Light Avishya, reel number 8. Kalia Maltan, reel number 6. Shiraz, reel number 7. Blue Angel, reel number 7. Our Daily Bread, last reel. Queen Christina, reel number 3. Santukaram, reel number 4, Garva Devdas, reel number 3 and 6, Andravali, reel number 9 and 10.
When I joined the institute, I had never walked out of a film before that. At the institute, seeing so many of them and not having to pay for them. Once one got into the habit of leaving movies which one didn't grab one's interest. Every time I did that, however, and there were times when there were 2 people in the auditorium or maybe none, except Nair Sahab, who was always sitting there. I used to wonder, okay, what a wonderful job this man has. I'd give anything to do his job. Just watch movies all day. Until I realized the amount of labor that it took and the amount of strain it must have been on his nerves, and how brain deadening it is to watch so many movies in one day and to try to assimilate them all and to make records of them all, put them all, in the archives, classify them, note down details of credits and so on. Just incredible the amount of work Nair Sahab did behind the scenes, work which nobody noticed, and sadly work which very few people are aware of.
You know, maybe I should give myself a child, Mr. Everett.
A little light and a man with a pen was making notes about the film. And that's Mr. Nair. Meticulously making notes, checking the print, checking for any kind of fault lines, any kind of problems. And then he is quietly making those notes. And then you realize something very simple. If it hadn't been for this man, you wouldn't be seeing this work.
After I got the national award, I took my film there, showed it to the students and the staff, the professors. And Nair Sahab also saw it. After the screening, Nair Sahab called me. He said, "You must come and meet me." I went and met him in his office. He says, "How many copies you have of this film?" I said, "Including this, one more." So he said, "You leave this print here." I said, "No, so I can't keep it here." No, he said, you keep it here. You can do everything, with your other print. You leave this. He didn't allow me to take the print out of the campus. And he said, "You send the bill, I'll get it, I'll see that it gets paid in a week's time." So accordingly he did it.
He was so intimate with films, and he was smelling film, he was eating film. He was, he was drinking film. That was he. No.
We used to have this whole session where one night before Holi we used to pick up songs from various films, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, and have a screening of all those songs. And all of us used to sit and make that list of songs and finally approach Nair Sahab that these are the songs we want. And this I remember that he used to instruct somebody. He says, "Okay, this song, this film, reel number this song, reel number this, take it out from that film." And which used to be quite amusing to watch that he was a man who had thousands of films in his archive, and he would remember every film in which reel this particular scene or this song was. So which is fascinating when I look back now. Say, if I even have to recollect from my own films, I don't think I can recollect which. Once you've done with the edit, then you don't remember your own films where these.
He went personally and collected a lot of films from all over the city, from kabadiwalas, from various other sources, and he put together this archive. It's brick by brick. It's quite extraordinary, the amount of work that Nair has done. He is the only equivalent person I can think of is that great man who started the Cinematheque in Paris.
All right, I think we can end. We're running out of time, and
I made a film called Gata Shraddha. That was my first film in 1978. The film was processed here in a lab in Bangalore. And
yeah, sorry about it because we're running very short time. In case we can go on talking on PK Nair, but in case you have any questions, we'll be very happy to answer them outside because they have another session happening. Thank you very much. Yeah.